Welcome back. In this video, I want to talk about a retirement withdrawal software that is available for DIY investors. This program is called Adviice, and it is incredibly low priced and has a lot of features that you might be interested in. If you watched some of my other videos, you'll know that I used to use a program called Milestones. I loved that program. It was free. They started charging $90 per year, which is understandable. It's a great program and they need to make some money. But I was looking for something a little cheaper, as I'm not quite at that stage where I need that yet. I also have a video about May Retire. It is a free withdrawal program. It's pretty good as well, but at this price point I was excited to try something new. Every January 1st I make my new financial goals and plans and like to see where I'm at and if we're headed in the right direction. So I thought I would treat myself to a Christmas present and purchase 1 month of Adviice to see how the program is and what my financial outlook is. Signing up was really straightforward. If you just go to adviice.ca, it'll take you to this page here. You can just click on Start Planning and it'll get you to a sign up and you can just enter all your information there. And once you're in, it'll take you to this overview. I've already pre-programmed some of the information so you can see that there's some information in here already. But when you want to start out, you'll want to scroll down on the left to Profile. So when you click here, it'll take you to this page here and you'll just enter all of your information here. Email address, phone number, province, names of the spouses, birthdays, when each spouse wants to retire, citizenship, if you have any children. For this example, I just put 2 children. It doesn't affect the retirement plan, but there is an education piece there as well. I'm probably not going to spend too much time talking about it. Birthdays of the children. And here you can enter some things like if you have a defined benefit plan. So for my wife and I, we both have a defined benefit plan. So I would highlight both these boxes here. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to say that this couple does not have a defined benefit plan. I did check that they have a house and some vehicles. Their income range I just set as $50,000 to $100,000 each, and asset range I just put $500,000 to $1 million. And in the debt section, I just said that they were debt-free. And as you scroll down, here is where you enter what types of investments you have. So if you have RRSPs, TFSAs, non-registered, LIRAs, group RRSPs, all that stuff. And I just sort of picked RRSPs, TFSAs. Actually, in this example, I don't have them having any non-registered accounts, so I can just click those off. And some RESPs. One spouse has a spousal RRSP. And if you scroll down a little further, here is where you have some insurance. So if you have term insurance on either spouse, you can highlight those. For the sake of this example, I just said that they don't have any insurance. So I'll click those off as well. I had highlighted those because I do have some insurance through my employer. And once you've entered all that data, then you can go back up to the overview. Again, here's some information that is filled in. And if you click on the goals and the values, honestly, for the sake of what I wanted, it was really nice. I guess this is a new feature. You can just click on simple. In the detailed, you can input a whole bunch of different things that you want to have Adviice know about you. But for the sake of what I wanted, I just left everything on simple, and that was nice and easy for me. Same with the risk. I just put it on simple. Didn't have to input anything. In the income here, so you can see that I have this couple at 47 and 44 years old. I have them retiring at the same age. I have them retiring at the same year. So they would retire at 65 and 62 years old. And you can see their income, I just put at the average income in Alberta at $66,700 per year. And you can change that here if you get paid monthly. You can just put a monthly salary there or whatever you want. In the expenses section, I have 3 different categories. The first category is there's current snapshot. That's from 47 to 65 for the first spouse. And so that's just their working years. And you can see I have annual expenses of about $84,000 per year, which is $7,000 per month. I have them spending about $40,000 each. And then here's some savings. So they put $1,000 each into their RRSPs, nothing into the spousal RRSPs, $1,000 each into the TFSAs. And so this piece is for your investments. And if you just put TFSAs into cash, then you can put that amount in here and nothing in the non-registered. And I didn't put any RRSP contributions for this video. And you can see 2 different retirement ages. I have the retirement snapshot from 66 to 75. A lot of advisors will call that the go-go years, and then you'll often hear the slow go and the no-go. Instead of having two other categories, I just put one. I just called it getting older, moving slower. And so that's from 76 years old to 100. And you can easily change those years. So if you just go to edit, you can change the years there that you are going to be in that section. If you wanted to add a slow go and a no go, you can just add another financial snapshot, name it, and say what start date and end age you want that retirement plan to be. One thing to note, when I was first playing around with this, if you put 47 to 65 on the current snapshot, I tried to put 65 to 75 on the retirement snapshot. That gave us an error, so you have to go 1 year after the previous plan. So if you go from 47 to 65, you have to start at 66 for your next plan, and so on. And you can see their retirement plan here. So in their early retirement days, I have them spending $74,000 per year. In their getting older, moving slower years, I have it going down to $50,000. And you can see why. I've got each spouse spending $37,000 per year in their early retirement, and then as they move less and travel less, I have them spending about $25,000 per year. And you can put whatever you want in there. I know for my wife and I, we track all our expenses. We sort of have a good idea as to what we want to spend in retirement, so we put that number in there for us. And of course, in the retirement, there is no RRSP contributions or TFSA contributions or anything like that. And then on the left, again, if you click on cash flow, you don't need to put anything in there. If you have it on simple assets, you can see here's where you enter how much you have in each of your accounts. So this couple, I just have savings account at $5,000 for each spouse. One spouse, I have $30,000 in RRSP, and the other spouse at $44,000. And for TFSAs, I have them at $55,000 and $28,000. And an RESP balance, again, doesn't affect the retirement. I just threw in a $15,000 RESP balance there. And you can see that I put some vehicles there. I just put $20,000 in for their two vehicles maybe. And I put a house value of $500,000. And you can see on the right hand side, it's asking for the RRSP contribution room. And so I just put in some random numbers, 50,000 and 45,000, and TFSA contribution room, 30,000 and 45,000. Again, you can put whatever data is relevant for you in there. Their debts, I said they didn't have any debts, so there's nothing to put in there. You can see a snapshot of their net worth for each spouse. I didn't put anything in insurance for the simple piece. Tax and benefits, this is where you state your OAS and your CPP, and you can see that I just said that they were born in Canada, so they've been here for 47 years. And for their CPP estimates, I just put in the Canadian average at $844 per month for each spouse. I use the PWL calculator to calculate my estimated CPP, and that's what I put in there for my wife and I. And your investment plan, so this is where you state what your expected returns is for each account. And this program uses FP Canada's return scenarios. So you can see that they have an expected return of 6.71% for equities, for stocks, and 3.4% for bonds. And I just gave this couple a 60-40 balanced portfolio, and I had them use just an all-in-one and asset allocation ETF. So the fees are 0.2% on those asset allocation ETFs. And at the bottom, you can see that their expected return is about 5.19% based on that 60-40 portfolio. And I just had their savings account return about 2%. And if you have a non-registered account, you can enter some information there. A lot of that information you can get off of your T5 that you get every year. But in this case, I didn't have a non-registered account. Next, you can just go down to the CPP and OAS on the left here, and it shows you what your expected OAS and CPP payments would be for each of the years. And then once you've done all that, you can just click on projections on the left, and you'll see this chart here showing all your information. So at the top, you can see I've named this YouTube. If you click on that, you'll see all my other scenarios that I've put in. Your income projections are here. You can see that the plan is 103% funded, but on the right, there is a 65% success rate. If you click on spending, you can see the spending. So during their working years, you can see that their spending was a little higher, and then they retired, their spending was lower, and then as they got older and slower, their spending was even lower. Here's their net worth, and you can see they do have some TFSAs at the end, and you can see that they're dwindling down some of their accounts. And if you wanted to see what their portfolio is, you can turn off the real estate here and see what just the accounts look like, but they do have that house that they can fall back on. And here's the success rate, and you can see the 50th percentile does have them making it to age 100, but that 10th percentile does fall short right around 74 years old, and there's a success rate of 65%. So if we go back to income, and then we can scroll down here, and here's a whole bunch of scenarios. I guess this is AI creating a whole bunch of different scenarios that we can look at. And what I didn't like was that it kept saying I could reduce my spending. I don't want to reduce my spending, and then I found this filter piece here, so you can just check them all, but take off this modify retirement spending. If I am set on spending the $74,000 and then the $50,000, I don't want to change that, so I can take that off, and all these scenarios will no longer have those. You can see all the different types of scenarios you can and cannot use. And so you can just go through each of these scenarios and see which ones you would like to apply. And so let's say I just selected this one. This one would take us from 65% all the way to 95%. So let's enable that. Go up to the top and just click on recalculate. And you can see it's changed some of our scenarios. You can see the spending at the forefront has changed. Here's our net worth. You can see a lot more money in our TFSAs at the end, and our success rate is far more successful here. And you can scroll down and you can see all these other scenarios that you could do. So they recommend maybe a 90-10 split for spouse 2. Instead of a 60-40 portfolio, let's take on a little bit more risk and see what that does for our portfolio. So recalculate. Here's our new income. Here's our spending summary, so you can see that we're even putting money into TFSAs as we get older. Our net worth, our TFSAs are growing substantially. We've got significant amount of registered RRSPs now. We're at 99% success rate, and our plan is funded 126%. And you can see our success rate is really, really strong now. And you can see here that if we also change our asset allocation to a 90-10 portfolio rather than a 60-40 for spouse 1, you can see that we're going to get a 100% success rate. So let's recalculate that. And now we have a 100% success rate, funding 135% of our plan. You can see where our money is going, how our investment accounts are growing, and the success rate. Not one case has not met our criteria. And you can go through and play around with all these different scenarios here. You can see that we have a fully funded account. We have an after-tax estate of about 1.8 million. You can play around with all these different scenarios. So if I selected this one, we could have an after-tax estate of $2 million by the time both spouses pass away. And you can just go through and select all the scenarios that you may or may not want to change so that your after-tax estate is as high as possible. And you can see here that it does suggest that we start CPP later for spouse 1. So if we held off CPP until 69, let's see what that does. And you can see our after-tax estate is even higher, still at that 100% rate. Plan funded now at 136% instead of 135. And we can go through and find out what the optimal time to use CPP for spouse 1 and 2, and start time for OAS and all that sort of stuff. You can see all these different scenarios and how they affect the after-tax estate. And I will let you play around with those if you choose. And at the bottom here, you can see how all your money is being allocated and withdrawn at different years. You can export that into an Excel spreadsheet as well, so you always have that available to you. So all in all, this is a great program. It was a little confusing for me at first. It did take a little bit to get used to. So I do hope that if you are interested in the Adviice platform, this video has helped you. For $9 a month or even $49 per year, this is a fantastic start. It's a great program. It tells you lots of information. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to stay informed of some of my other ones, please subscribe below. Have a wonderful day.